yes, yes, yes. Okay. I was going to watch this one yesterday, but it was at the time when I brought it up, it was we didn't have enough time. So we're gonna watch it today. Um all right. This one, I think one of you guys suggested this. So this is one by someone we have not watched before, MrBallen. And this one is about Russian naval blunders that are stranger than fiction. So I'm completely unfamiliar with this person. So I have no idea what what the content is, but he's talking about Russian naval blunders, and I'm hoping I'm going to laugh my ass off. So I'm all for it. So, oh, he's a vet. Okay, then this should be funny. So let's check this out.
No matter how absurd this story gets, just remember, it's true. But before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in
He's a former SEAL. Oh boy. Okay, this should be good then.
story format, then you come to the right channel because that's all we do, and we upload 3 or 4 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please beg the like button to have them give you their secret chocolate chip cookie recipe, and then when they finally cave and they do give it to you, immediately post it on Facebook with the caption, "Here's my chocolate chip cookie recipe." Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story. Around the turn of the 20th century, Russia and Japan got into a dispute over who should be in control of Korea and China. Looking to avoid an armed conflict, the Japanese sent the Russians a deal that came with reasonable concessions on both sides. But the Russians didn't like it, they rejected the deal, and they countered with a pretty unreasonable deal that came with lots of concessions for Japan and not so many for Russia. And so Japan rejected that deal and then promptly launched a devastating surprise attack on the Russian Navy stationed at Fort Arthur in China. This attack would officially start the one-year-long Russo-Japanese War. The Russians knew they would need to send a replacement naval fleet up to Fort Arthur to reclaim it from the Japanese, but unfortunately, the attack at Fort Arthur had totally wiped out all of Russia's best sailors and all their best ships, putting Russia at a major disadvantage to start this war. And so as Russians are wondering what they're going to do next, the Russian Emperor, Tsar Nicholas II, authorizes an unbelievable mission. He orders the Russian Baltic Fleet to set sail from their harbor in northern Europe and sail 18,000 miles around the world to Japan, where they will defeat the Japanese and then reclaim Fort Arthur. The fact
What? He wants his fleet to sail around the world and then try and take back Fort Arthur. This man doesn't understand how time and stress works, does he? By the time these sailors finish that sail, they're gonna be like, fuck this, I'm too goddamn tired.
That none of the Baltic Fleet ships were designed to sail that far of a distance, or that there were literally 0 refueling points along their massive projected path.
No one taught him how to lead. Like legit, no one taught him.
A Russian Tsar? Here's my expression of shock and amazement at this fact. And Jameson, thank you for the gifted.
Largely inconsequential and ignored. What was also considered inconsequential was how absurdly unqualified the Baltic crew was. The sailors were mostly illiterate peasants that did not grow up on the coasts, and so they showed up for military training with no seafaring skills. And then after their military training,
out for a bit. It's 100 degrees in my room heading to the main house.
Okay, Stone Killer.
Still had no seafaring skills because the Baltic Fleet's harbor was frozen solid almost year-round. But the Tsar believed the man he had put in charge of this crew, Admiral Rojesvenski, would make up for their deficiencies. And this belief was not unwarranted. Admiral Rojesvenski was the best Russian officer that had not been killed in that Japan surprise attack. He had significant combat experience, and he had a wickedly
That's his resume? He's the best that they had that didn't get killed in the attack? I'm sorry, to my ears, that doesn't sound like a hell of a resume. I mean, yeah, it means he's either competent or lucky. Not that that doesn't make for a great leader. Yeah, Atanashi, I am keeping that thought firmly in mind.
Bad temper. He didn't care who you were. If you were doing something he didn't like, he was going to beat the crap out of you. Literally. And when he was told he was going to be in charge of this fairly inexperienced crew, he was certain his rough style would whip these Baltic boys into shape and they would be very successful. But when he laid eyes on the Baltic fleet, he realized this was going to be a little bit more challenging than he realized. In addition to being less than satisfied with his fighting crew, he was equally dissatisfied with the two senior officers that were assigned to be his direct support. And he immediately gave them nicknames, and he would only refer to them by their nicknames, right to their face.
No.
The first one was the manure sack, and the other was a vast empty space. As for the Baltic
Way to inspire your fucking troop command, jackass. This is the mentality of someone like, I only make fun of people that I care about, or I only make fun of people that I respect. That's what this mentality is feeling like right now. And I hate that mentality because it's bullshit.
Baltic Fleet's 45 ships, they were terrible. Because this unit never went out on the ocean because their harbor was always frozen, Russia didn't waste their good ships on them. So all they had were really old, obsolete warships and then non-military ships like ferries and yachts that they just slapped random guns onto. They also had ships that the Baltic Fleet crew enthusiastically called futuristic, which were these ships that came out of Russia briefly copying French engineering, which involved these crazy top-heavy ships that sat so low in the water that their lowest rung of weapons, their cannons that poked out the windows at the bottom of the ship, they didn't work because they sat under the water permanently.
Oh my
but regardless
God.
of their shortfalls, the Baltic Fleet was what Rozhestvensky had been dealt, and so he had to just get them moving if they were going to win the war. And so on October 16th, 1904, Admiral Rozhestvensky ordered all of his men to take their positions in all of their ships, and they set sail. And immediately, 30 seconds into their trip, the lead ship ran aground, and another ship lost its anchor, even though it should not have been casting its anchor to begin with. And so while one ship is trying to refloat, and the other is trying to find its anchor in the ocean, a third ship comes along and broadsides a fourth ship. And it does so much.
Oh my God, this is a fucking Three Stooges routine right now. Are you fucking kidding me? The Three Stooges would be better sailors than these guys. Like, what the fuck? Oh my God.
Damage to this fourth ship, that ship had to go back home. But once they overcame these initial obstacles, the Baltic Fleet, that now numbered 44 ships, made it out of the harbor without any more issues, and then set sail for the narrow waters between Denmark and Sweden. As they drew closer, Manure Sack informed Rozhestvensky that there might be an issue, that he had heard rumblings amongst the crew that they believed Japanese torpedo boats were stationed off the coast of Denmark waiting for them to get there. Rozhestvensky told Manure Sack that that was impossible. The Japanese torpedo boats did not have the capabilities to sail 18,000 miles to Denmark. And even if they did have the ability to do that, they could not have gotten there in such a short period of time. But Manure Sack told Rozhestvensky that unfortunately, even though logically that makes sense, this rumor had spread all across the crew. And so Rozhestvensky began sending out messages to...
I mean, that's the thing about rumors, especially in situations like this. Rumors based upon fear do not have logic behind them. And you should know this. If he was a skilled commander. Yeah, especially when you have like an illiterate crew, which means they're uneducated, which means they don't have experience. So, of course, fear is going to rule their decision-making processes and is going to rule their imaginations. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't logically make sense or anything. That doesn't matter. Because, a fearful imagination is a hell of a lot more powerful than a logical mind.
To all the other ships, telling them there are no Japanese torpedo boats waiting for us off the coast of Denmark. Everybody just needs to calm down. And these messages did appear to work at first, because eventually another rumor began to circulate, one that Rojesvenski was not really aware of as it was happening, and that was that the crew began to believe there was a huge minefield underneath them. Everywhere they went, there was a minefield. And everybody got so worked up about it that it made its way back to a lot of the captains actually piloting the different ships. And at some point, the pilots just began doing these evasive maneuvers. And Rojesvenski's looking around wondering what they're doing. And they began crashing into each other, trying to avoid this minefield.
God.
When Rojesvenski finally figured out what was going on, he sent out even more messages telling them that there's no minefield under us. It's totally safe. Everybody just needs to calm down. And so it took Rojesvenski going out on deck and firing shots into the air to finally get people to...
Yeah, like, when your enemy doesn't even need to generate propaganda, and you're just generating the propaganda all on your own and doing the enemy's work for you. Like, holy shit, the Japanese couldn't have produced better propaganda than what these Russian sailors were concocting in their own brains. Like, holy shit, these Russians are losing the war without ever engaging a target. Because they're just nothing but panic-stricken. Atanashi, you're right there. These were not professional sailors. These were people with zero sailing or combat experience. And, like, probably next to zero training. And so, I mean, honestly, what did they expect? Really?
To stop believing they were on top of a minefield. But just a couple of hours later, after Rojesvenski had gone back up to the bridge and was just looking out, surveying his fleet as they carried on towards Denmark and Sweden, when all of a sudden, towards the very front of his fleet, he heard this unbelievable barrage of cannon fire. One of his own ships was engaging something out in front of the fleet, but Rojesvenski was too far away to see what it was, and then a message came through from the attacking ship, whose name was Kamchatka, and they said they were surrounded on all sides by at least 8 Japanese torpedo boats. And so Rojesvenski runs out onto the deck, looking out towards the horizon, expecting to see these 8 Japanese ships, but he doesn't. And then all of a sudden, the shooting just completely stops and it's silent. And then Rojesvenski notices on his right side, a small little fishing boat is making its way right up alongside his. It would turn out Kamchatka, the attacking ship, had confused this little unarmed Russian fishing ship with 8 Japanese
Very cute. Fucking kidding me. Not only did it confuse a fishing boat with somehow calculating 1 turns into 8, it was one of their own fishing ships. Oh, now... Yeah, that poor fisherman must have shit himself after all that. If he's still alive.
torpedo boats and had opened fire. But luckily, even though they fired hundreds and hundreds of rounds at this little boat, none of them hit the boat. And so the fishermen...
Not gonna lie, I am starting to agree with this guy calling his men shitbags.
Yeah, baby Jeebus. I'm kind of starting to agree with it myself. But this is the ship they shot at? This oversized dinghy? They thought this oversized dinghy was 8 torpedo boats. Oh, God. Oh my God. And these guys are and they fire hundreds of rounds and missed. They missed. And these guys are expected to take back the port from experienced Japanese sailors. And Tricio, thank you for the resub. Thank you so much. And we are learning about the Russian naval blunders that are stranger than fiction, i.e., when the Japanese took a Russian naval port, the Tsar decided to send his entire fleet of 44 ships from the opposite side of the country, packed to the gills with completely inexperienced and illiterate non-sailors, around the world to try and retake back the port. They crashed 4 ships just leaving port. Every single one of these quote-unquote sailors are panicking, thinking that they're going to be getting attacked by Japanese torpedo boats and that they are constantly floating over minefields, and they just now mistook this singular little fishing ship that's Russian as for 8 Japanese torpedo boats, open fire on it with their main guns through hundreds of cannon rounds downrange, and missed. Yeah, it's a small target, but if you're raining hundreds of rounds down on it, one of them's gotta hit.
Fishermen were fine, and the fishermen had actually been sent to the boat specifically by Tsar Nicholas II to tell Rojesvensky that he had been promoted. And so Rojesvensky.
So not only were they just fishermen, they were messengers for the Tsar, and he almost sunk them. And he'd been promoted.
Sir, we unloaded on the fishing boat. Did you hit it? No.
My God.
He apologizes to the fishermen for having shot at them hundreds and hundreds of times, and they said it was okay, and the fishermen carried on. After Rojesvensky chewed out the crew of the Kamchatka, the rest of the Baltic Fleet gathered up, and they continued towards the narrow waters between Denmark and Sweden. When they got close, a Danish resupply ship came out to meet them to give them fuel and food and water.
Oh God.
And the Baltic Fleet mistook them for a Japanese torpedo boat,
oh, for
causing
fuck's
them
sake.
to ram them repeatedly. And then they realized their mistake, but at that point, they had done severe damage to the resupply ship, who had to immediately turn around and go back to shore.
Oh my fucking God! This is not just blunders? This is beyond blunders at this point. Like, I do not know how the commander of this fleet did not just start beating the fuck out of everyone. Like, this is like, yeah, this is incompetence on a massive scale at this point. It really is. And yeah, well, I think at this point, Alex, they're passing, oh, excuse me. At this point, I think they're passing through the strait. Because they said that, you know, I think they're passing Denmark at this point, because that's when they said the Danish ship came out. Well, okay, but Bobcat, here's the thing. They didn't fire on this one. They just rammed it over and over and over again. So I don't think they actually shot at it, according to what he said. But still, what the fuck?
After that, the Baltic Fleet did manage to get past Denmark and Sweden, and they made it out to the North Sea. But as soon as they got out there was trouble. One of the captains of the ships that was towards the front of the Baltic Fleet's formation spotted 4 Japanese torpedo boats coming right at them.
Oh God.
And so this ship, along with 6 others, immediately just began engaging these 4 ships with everything they had. Cannons, big guns, small guns, everything. It was absolute chaos from the front of this formation. And the amount of gunfire that was going off towards the front caused the rest of the ships that were not part of the attack to begin to panic. and the other ship captains began
Of course.
ramming into each other to try to get
Oh,
away
fuck.
from this attack. And so while that's going
What?
on, all the crew members on all the ships begin drawing their swords and running around, expecting the Japanese to board them at any moment. And the others
What?
that did not draw their swords put on life jackets and laid down on their back on the deck of the ship, believing that was procedure for how to survive a sinking ship. And so for the next 20 minutes, it was just continuous gunfire coming from the front of their formation. One of the attacking ships sent a message back to Rojesvenski that said they had been hit by a torpedo and they were taking heavy fire and it was just absolute bedlam up there. And then all of a sudden, it just totally stopped. And when the smoke cleared, Rojesvenski and his ship had been able to maneuver up a little bit closer and they could see what they were shooting at. And it would turn out, once again, it was a case of mistaken identity. They were not being attacked by Japanese torpedo boats. They had spotted 4 small British fishing boats.
Oh, fuck. Are you fucking kidding me? They fired on British ships now. So now they're going to piss off the British Navy, who is a hell of a lot better at this than they are. I honestly, at this point, you have to wonder, why in the name of fuck did this commander at some point not just go, fuck it, we're going back home. This ain't working. Like, I'm surprised these ships at the front actually still have ammunition after dumping hundreds of rounds at fishing ships. Like, seriously, how do these front end ships even have ammunition left? Like, when it comes time for an engagement, they're not going to be able to do fuck all.
And in the chaos of the gunfight, the Baltic Fleet had inadvertently begun to fire at each other, killing several crew members and badly damaging their ships in the process. As for the British fishermen, only one of their boats actually sunk, despite the fact that the Baltic Fleet had fired thousands and thousands of rounds at them, and they had been stationary the entire time. The Russian Tsar immediately apologized to Britain, but the British media went crazy, and the British people called for war, believing that this type of attack could not possibly be an accident. But Russian diplomats leveled with the British and said, no, this really was an accident. And eventually they convinced them, avoiding starting yet another war. Rojesvenski and his Baltic fleet were allowed to continue in their journey, and after a couple of weeks, they were getting close to Africa when one of his ships...
Yeah, Corey, exactly. Exactly. Like, this question is being asked every time. How in the fuck are you mistaking fishing boats for torpedo boats? And how can you fire hundreds and hundreds or thousands and thousands of rounds and miss?
I'm sorry, but Careless Rex would have done better if the Ruskies hadn't won the Great Northern War.
I don't know Careless Rex, so I don't know that one, but like, the incompetence on this is mind-numbing. This is just mind-numbing incompetence. And if they actually manage to engage the Japanese fleet, I do not see how they could fucking win. I do not see how they could fucking win if they engage the Japanese fleet at this point.
Ships, the Kamchatka, the same ship.
Wait, is Potato leaving? Okay, see you. Have a good night, Potato. Yeah, baby jeans. Yeah, exactly. They got hit by friendly fire. They got fratricided. Like, I mean, again, what the hell do you expect when you have a fleet of ships almost 100% manned by completely uneducated and untrained quote-unquote sailors and high AC/DC?
that believed they were surrounded by 8 Japanese torpedo boats, they got separated from the main fleet and got lost. And so Rojestvensky and the other officers did what they could to try to locate them, but nobody had seen where they went, and there wasn't great technology to try to locate them. And so unfortunately, Rojestvensky and the Baltic Fleet just had to continue on and hope that at some point the lost ship would find them again. A few days later, the main body arrived in Tangier, and lo and behold, Kamchatka showed up. And they informed Rojestvensky that they had gotten lost, and they didn't really have a good answer for that. But once they were lost, they managed to engage 3 separate Japanese torpedo boats. But it would turn out they were not Japanese torpedo boats. They were, in fact, a German, a Swedish, and a French fishing boat. But none of Kamchatka's rounds actually impacted any of the 3 vessels, and so 3 more wars were averted. And so now that Rojestvensky had his lost ship back, he gathered up his full Baltic fleet.
Again, the commander of this fleet, the fact that he was the only one to survive the attack and thus made him the best that they had, there's a reason why I said that does not inspire confidence, and I'm pretty sure at this point, he only survived by dumb fucking luck. I'm reasonably sure that this man's only survived that attack by dumb luck. Because holy fuck. This, like, they need to, like...
What is their problem with fishing boats? Are they allergic to fish?
Bobby, I think it's like what everybody else in chat is saying. They're just uneducated, and they don't even know what the fuck a Japanese torpedo boat even looks like in the first place. So they basically just see every boat as a torpedo boat. Literally every boat is a torpedo boat in their eyes. And most of them are scared and panicky and do not wish to die. So they're of the mindset, we see a boat, kill it before it can kill us. I don't care what it is. That's what their mentality is. Which is the wrong fucking mentality for a sailor.
And they left Tangier. But on their way out, one of the ships managed to cut the underwater telegraph line to Tangier, cutting off Tangier's communication with Europe for the next 4 days. By now, the Baltic Fleet was very low on coal, but they had a planned rendezvous with a German resupply ship off the coast of West Africa. When they got there, the crew decided they didn't want to do another resupply later on, and so let's just take double coal this time. And so they hauled all of this extra coal onto their ships, despite not having a place for it, and so naturally they began throwing it in the halls and in their bedrooms, and basically anywhere there was space. And what that did is it led to a fine layer of coal dust all over everything in the ship.
Black lung, anybody? Fuck, you just gave every single one of these sailors cancer. Every single one of these sailors now had not fire hazard and they have black lung now. Fucking hell.
Ship. And that, combined with the intense humidity off the coast of Africa, led to this black coal gunk getting trapped inside of all of the sailors' lungs, which began killing several of them. A couple weeks later, as they rounded the southern tip of Africa, it finally rained on them, washing away a lot of that coal dust on their ships, which was a big relief. But the rain turned into a pretty bad storm, and so Rojestvensky decided he just wanted all of his ships to call in and say they were okay. And so one by one, each of the ships were told to message him saying the words, "We are okay." And so one by one, each of the ships did this until it got to Kamchatka's turn. And they accidentally sent the message, "Do you see Japanese torpedo boats?" And of course,
the suck is with the Kamchatka. This fucking boat is like the red-headed stepchild of this fleet right now. Like, seriously, someone needs to take the crew and captain of the Kamchatka and give them a good beating or something. Like, seriously, what the fuck?
Of course, this message spread like wildfire across the entire crew, which led to mass hysteria, and Rojestvensky's trying to send out messages to say, no, there's no Japanese torpedo boats, but it's too late. The other captains are panicking, and they're ramming into each other and firing blindly into the wind. From that point forward, every night, Rozhdestvensky would go up onto the bow of his ship and he would scream obscenities at Kamchatka. When the Baltic Fleet finally made it to Madagascar, the morale amongst the crew was very low. And so when
Rat bastard, Gomer fucking Pyle would have been more competent than this. Like, this is incompetence on a scale I don't think I've ever heard of before. Like, this is just mind-boggling. Yeah, Donald Duck would have been better. Elno Fudd would have been a more competent sailor than this. Like, Jesus. This fucking hurts.
they docked in Madagascar, the crew decided it would be a good idea to boost their morale by buying some pets to bring back on board the ship with them.
Oh,
and
God.
the pets they decided to bring back were crocodiles and
What?
poisonous snakes. When their handlers
What?
smuggled them back on board their ship,
What? What? Crocodiles and poison snakes as pets. My fucking God. Oh my God. No, croc is not okay. Those things will eat you while you're sleeping.
they immediately escaped down into the bowels of the ship. When they went looking for them, they couldn't find them because the ships were in such bad shape. There were all sorts of cracks and holes all over the interior for these animals to escape to. And so the men just had to accept there were very dangerous predators just living on their ship with them. And so most men were unable to sleep at night in fear of being attacked by these animals, which led a number of them to go for real insane. And so the pets idea didn't really boost morale amongst the Baltic Fleet, and so one of the officers decided he would take another crack at boosting spirits. And so he went to a vendor in Madagascar and he purchased 2,000 of their finest cigarettes to bring back on board. So he brings them back on board, he hands them all out, and everyone's so thankful. But it turns out those cigarettes were laced with enormous amounts of opium, which led...
My fucking God! You're fucking kidding me! Yeah, now they're high as fuck and probably hallucinating. This... I don't know if I have any more words left on this one. Comedy of errors does not even begin to describe. Yeah, Atanashi, you're right. This is a story that Hollywood should tell. This would be fucking hilarious. This would make for a great movie or TV series. Right here. Oh my God.
led to hundreds of the crew members becoming hopelessly addicted to opium. Also in Madagascar, the sailors picked up dozens of diseases that began wiping them out in droves. During one funeral for a crew member, the Kamchatka asked if they could fire a salute with blank rounds. They were given permission, but they accidentally fired live rounds into the ship right next to them. When
I can't breathe. I could breathe. Oh my god. Oh, okay. um, okay. At this point,
The
at
Russian
this
Navy
point,
broke Ember.
at this point, if the fleet's commander, first of all, what I was going to say until he said that they shot their own ship was, goddamn it, Kanchaka. But now I'm thinking, if if the commander of the fleet does not say, sink that fucker right now, oh, like, Fenris, I broke because I was laughing so damn hard because the fucking Kamchaka at the head of the fleet that was supposed to fire blank rounds in tribute for soldiers that died out of stupidity of the Russian fleet, instead of firing blanks, they fired live rounds and they hit one of their own ships in the process. And I just could not stop laughing. Oh, God. Oh, I'm dizzy now from that. Uh, I'm crying. Okay, and there is still 5 minutes, 4 minutes left to this.
Cheer 100 now it makes sense why they sold their navy to Pepsi for so cheap.
Yeah? Did they sell the sailors along with it? Because holy fuck. No, Red Bastard, there's only 4 minutes left. We're getting through this. Oh, God.
When Rojesvenski and the rest of the Baltic fleet finally left Madagascar, their only refrigerator on board one of their ships broke, which spoiled all of their meat, tons and tons of meat. And so they began throwing it overboard, which attracted hundreds and hundreds of sharks, which circled their ships for the rest of their journey. Rojesvenski desperately wanted to find a way to somehow train the remainder of the Baltic fleet how to be somewhat militarily competent. And so
now he's thinking about training them? Now he's saying, I think these guys need to be trained. What? Are you fucking kidding me? Again, this man only survived the port attack because of dumb fucking luck and nothing having to do with skill. Holy God. This guy has the IQ of a deep freeze.
he decided he would make them all do target practice because that had been a big issue on this trip so far. And so he had one ship attach a long line that was connected to a target in the water, and that ship would pull the target along, and the other ships would take shots at the target.
Oh, now. Oh, I already see where this is going. I can already see where this is going. They're gonna hit the towing ship. They're not gonna hit the target. They're gonna hit the ship towing the target.
And so all of the ships on Rojesvenski's call began firing at this target, and after thousands and thousands of rounds, they didn't hit the target once. However, they managed to continuously shoot the ship that was pulling the target. For Rojesvenski, this was the final straw. He felt like he could do absolutely nothing to make the Baltic fleet an actual military force. And so he sent a message back to the Tsar and said, you gotta replace me. I need to resign and somebody else needs to come in and take over. And the Tsar said, no, this is your fleet. And so begrudgingly, Rojesvenski—
Wait, it took him this long to figure this out and suddenly say, no bueno. This long. I have no words. I have no words.
continued on leading the Baltic fleet, until they finally, after 7 total months on the sea, were within striking distance of their target in Japan. The night before, as they prepared for their attack, they went into stealth mode where all the ships killed all of their lights. So they're totally dark, with the exception of their hospital ship. That kept their lights on. This was considered a rule of war at the time, which both sides abided by. And so while the Baltic Fleet was sitting out in the waters outside of Japan, a small fishing boat began coming towards them. Now, the fishing boat could only see the lit up hospital ship. They could not see the 43 other darkened ships. And so a crew member on board this hospital ship came up to the railing and he recognized the fishing boat was actually a Russian fishing boat. And so he waved them down, and when the Russian fishermen came outside, the crew member told him, "You gotta stop because there's 43 ships behind me that have their lights off. Do not go this way, go around." And so the Russian fisherman thanked him and turned around and went on his merry way. Except that wasn't a Russian fisherman, it was a Japanese sailor on board a Japanese torpedo boat.
Did you call it Red Bastard? I totally missed it. Hang on. Where did you call this?
Bang, 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 bang!
Where did you call this? I don't even see where you called it. It was a while ago? Okay. Oh my god. My fucking god. This is like something out of You Can't Do This on Television. I realize he said this is all fact. I cannot believe this is real. I cannot believe this is real. This does not feel like reality. It doesn't. Oh my fucking... Yes! Yes!
And now they knew exactly where the Baltic Fleet was. And so that night, the Japanese Navy completely surrounded the Baltic Fleet, and then the next day at daybreak, they launched their attack. It was called the Battle of Tsushima, and it was obscenely lopsided. The Japanese Navy completely wiped out the Baltic Fleet, killing 4,000 of their crew members and capturing 7,300 others, which included Rojesvensky, who had been badly wounded in the battle, but he would survive. In contrast, the Japanese only had 100 casualties. This victory for Japan really marked the end of the war for Russia, and shortly after the Battle of Tsushima, the Russians agreed to surrender. So that's gonna do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's episode, let us know in the comments what it is and where you found it, so give us the timestamp, and if you're the first to do that, we will pin you at the top of the comments section. If you enjoyed today's video and you haven't done this already, please beg the like button to let you have their secret chocolate chip cookie recipe. Tell them you won't share it with anyone, and as soon as they do give it to you, immediately post it on Facebook with the caption, "Here's my chocolate chip cookie recipe." Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly 3 or 4 video uploads. If you want to get in touch with me, you can direct message me on Instagram or on Twitter. My username for both platforms is the same. It's JohnBallen416. I also have a ton of content over on TikTok where my username is MrBallen. I also have a second YouTube channel called MrBallen Shorts where I post random short videos as well as lost episodes. If you have a story suggestion, please submit it to our subreddit just called MrBallen. It's linked in the description below. So whether I see you on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, or some combination, just know that I really appreciate your support, and until next time, that's gonna do it. See ya.
My god. And yeah, baby Jeebus, I thought the same thing. How in the fuck did a Russian not realize he was speaking to a Japanese sailor? How does this happen? The accent
The
alone.
epitome of incompetence.
Eh. Yeah. Very, very, very much so. Hurry. Okay, this is Japanese in when was this? Early 1900s? They're not that good. They ain't that good. Ah! Oh God. That was insane. That was just outright insane. 1905, right. Well, Marshmallow, it is entirely possible that maybe they understood
At
Russian?
this point the Russians and Japanese had a land border in Sakhalin. Some actually would cross the border to learn Russian from native speakers.
Thank you, Texas. That's what I suspected. That's what I suspected. It's some Japanese, given the time period, may have actually known Russian. Excuse me. It's kind of similar to how I'm just gonna throw out a particular country that I know does this. It's kind of like how a lot of Germans know how to speak English. They just like I'm guessing probably more than a few Japanese people were able to speak Russian because of the close land border and probably frequent trade that went on. That they would at least be able to know enough Russian to communicate with them. That would be my guess. Holy shit! That was insane. That was just absolutely insane.